Perfect video to get your week going. Hello and welcome to your Monday edition of Up to Speed Live. Thank you for joining us. That spot you watched is our next Verizon versus Verizon spot, which again underscores how we hold ourselves accountable to higher standards. We test and retest everything. We stand ready for whatever 2020 throws our way. In today's show, our HR leader, Christy Pambianchi, joins us today with some news about annual enrollment. It is that time once again, V-Team, to think about your benefits for the upcoming new year. Lots of news to share with you there. Also in the show, Christy will be leading an inspiring conversation with a member of our Verizon Board of Directors. Now, today, we are thrilled to have Mel Healey on Up to Speed Live as she shares with Christy some great insights, including her role on our board. Now, speaking of our board, let's talk about the newest member of our board of directors. Let's take that slide right now. We want to extend a warm welcome to Roxanne Austin, just elected to our board of directors. Ms. Austin is president and CEO of Austin Investment Advisors, and she becomes the 10th member of Verizon's board. You can find more information about Ms. Austin on VZ Web and inside Verizon. Roxanne Austin, welcome to our V team. This week also happens to be a customer service appreciation week, and we would love your help celebrating our amazing customer service teammates. So let's take the video now. We're going to dust off the good mailbox. good@verizon.com is the email. You already know that. And here's what we need from you. If you've got pictures, videos, stories to share, send all the ways you're appreciating our customer service team. We will share them on Up to Speed right here. Again, the email is good@verizon.com. With that, let's get up to speed now with Christy and talk about what is happening in the world of HR and annual enrollment. Happy Monday to you, Christy.
Andy, thanks so much. It's great to be here. Happy Monday to all the V team that's out there. And yes, I'm excited to be back, kicking off that time of year when we get to enroll in our annual benefits. And so first, before I jump into some of the details, let me just give a big shout out and a thank you to the team in benefits and the HR team that have been working hard to put this together for everybody all year. And we really appreciate it because we want to make sure we're keeping our V team safe and healthy. So let me hit some of the key dates for those of you watching. I think we've got some slide information for you here. So we're heading into a window, October 19th through October 29th. For all of our United States-based management, our West associates, and our wireless associates, in addition to Verizon Media Group. This is going to be your window to enroll in annual benefits. And then also October 6th to October 15th for our East associates. So these key dates are coming up. If you don't actively enroll, you will still be enrolled in the program, just carrying forward your elections from this year. But again, we do encourage you to please take the time to enroll. You're going to get tons of emails from us, lots of reminders, information about what you need to do if you want to make any changes for 2021. And Andy, I'm pretty sure the Up to Speed team is working hard to help us on this.
That is correct, Christy. Just like last year, we're going to be sharing the stories about our Verizon benefits, including some exciting expanding benefits as well. In fact, tomorrow morning on Up to Speed, we are excited to share the story of one of our V-teamers who credits Verizon's fertility and adoption benefits for helping to guide her through the family building journey. So please don't miss that story. And folks, let's put up that lower third, the good mailbox lower third. If you have a story to share about how Verizon benefits supported you at a critical time, please send us a note to the good mailbox. That's good@verizon.com. So Christy, thank you for laying out the annual enrollment plan there. And as we share some final thoughts on benefits, I did want to ask you before we get to Mel Healey, we know that annual enrollment is usually a great time to talk about how competitive these benefits are. But given what the world has dealt with this year, is the pandemic reshaping the way companies think about these benefits?
Well, we think, and I think you've heard this from Hans and the other leaders from the VLC that have joined Up to Speed over the last number of months, the health and safety of our employees is really important. And we think that having a competitive compensation package along with a robust health and welfare set of offerings is really important to our overall offerings for our V team. So we work hard and we're one of the leaders in the field to help make sure that this is something we can continue to have for all of our employees. And so please take the time. There's going to be great information and web-related tools for you to learn more about the benefits that you have available to you. And now more than ever, especially against the backdrop of a global pandemic, is the time to make sure you're taking all the measures and taking advantage of the benefits that we have available to you.
Absolutely. Great stability and peace of mind. And another reason we are so grateful to be a part of the V team and so grateful to our HR team. Christy, thank you for laying out the plan for annual enrollment. And I'm going to send it right back to you as we switch gears. We're going to get to know a member of our Verizon Board of Directors. Sending it right back to you, Christy, for the introduction.
Thanks so much, Andy. And I'm really excited to be here with everybody today to introduce to all the V-teamers and the up-to-speed audience out there, one of our board members, Mel Healey, as you heard from Andy at the beginning. She actually joined Verizon's board in 2011. Mel is a C-suite executive who has over 30 years of experience in operational and global companies such as Procter & Gamble and Johnson & Johnson. And Mel is actually the first board member of Verizon I got to meet last summer when I joined Verizon. And even in those early meetings, her passion for the consumer and the customer really jumps out at you. So I'm excited to bring that into our conversation today. And as we talk about benefits here today, Mel is also a member of our Human Resource Committee, and she gets regular reviews of all the programs we have here at Verizon and gets to give us her insight on the competitiveness of them or the thinking and the framework for how we're looking to bring them to life for the V-teamers. And so really excited to have Mel here with us. And one of the things we're hoping to hear from Mel today during our discussion will be 5G, Verizon's role in that, how she's seen our evolution of our brand, our interaction with consumers. But in addition, I also want to chat with Mel about her connection to her Hispanic heritage and what that means to her, especially while we're here in Hispanic Heritage Celebration Month. So Mel, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today and being here with me and all of our audience out there on Up to Speed. And maybe just to kick us off with obviously any introductory remarks you have, love to just get a sense of what does it really mean as a Verizon board member? What perspective do you have on the company? And how would you describe the business environment we're in 2020? And any other thoughts you have as a member of our board?
Well, thank you, Christy, for inviting me. It's just great to be here and be part of this terrific effort that you guys have put together. I know you've had a number of these, and I think it's such a great way to communicate with all your stakeholders, and it's been a terrific success. So thanks for including me in this. I guess, to answer your question around, how would I describe the business environment in 2020, one struggles to think about, the number of adjectives that you could describe this with, but I think some that come to mind would be things like tumultuous, crazy, probably one of the most unexpected and unpredictable and most difficult years that I think any leader out there has had to lead through. And I say that, with some of my own experience, running businesses in Latin America for most of my career. I was in Latin America almost 4 decades. So, went through the 1994 Mexican devaluation, several of these economic turmoils in Brazil, when inflation was 1,000% a year, sometimes 80% in a month. People would have their savings confiscated. You couldn't leave the country unless you paid a fee to the government of $6,000. I mean, all sorts of craziness as well. But honestly, a crisis like this one, I don't think, I ever had anything like this. It's just been so hard, I think, to predict. It's been such a turmoil for consumers, and businesses who have had, businesses who have shut down, consumers who have had their lives sort of thrown up into the air. They've had to now become teachers. They've had to shift their offices to the home. If you're a dual income family, where do you both work? Where do you both live? How do you teach your kids? And dogs barking in the background. I mean, we all know the drill by now. It's almost become the new normal. And I think this is the thing that, honestly, I think Verizon has done a terrific job of really trying to be agile and adapt to these circumstances. And what I'd say is, as a board member, I've been really very impressed and honestly proud of you and Hans and all the leadership team and the V-teamers who have really stepped up during this crisis. You know, your handling of the pandemic has been incredible. You know, leaders lead in times like this, and you have all truly role modeled what it takes to lead during a time of crisis. Being out in front of V-teamers like you are right now and customers alike, over-communicating every step of the way during both COVID-19 shutdown, but also during the racial protests, both with short and long-term solutions around how to deal with all of this, concrete solutions. I think that's so important. It's not just talk, but actual concrete solutions around, you know, how you're going to help improve people's lives at a time like this. You know, helping consumers with giving them flexibility to pay their bills. You know, just getting out in front of people with an enormous dose of empathy. It's been impressive to watch. It really has. And I think you've also kept the business going at a very difficult time. You know, with the expansion of 5G, the launch of 4G LTE home, the purchase of TracFone, you know, offering, again, as I said earlier, adjustments to plans where needed to help your customers through all this. And you guys didn't skip a beat. So what I'd say is well done to the team. You've proven to your board and your stakeholders that you can do it. You can lead through a crisis. I think it's also clear to say that this isn't behind us. You know, I think the next 12 months will be likely equally as unpredictable. And I think continuing to stay on top of this and being as fast and agile and flexible as you've been is and out in front of it as leaders is clearly the formula to continuing to execute with excellence during a time like this.
Thank you for those insights, Mel. It's really great to hear. You know, one of the things I think about is we just celebrated our 20th birthday this summer. So we have hashtag next 20. And when I think about the fact that you joined our board about the point in time where we were getting ready to have our 10th birthday, and, you know, how far we've grown since then over our 20-year history, your 11-year history with us on the board. I'd love to hear your insights on the brand and the customer and consumerism and how, you know, what from your view it takes to take a company from birth to the global brand recognition we have right now, and any insights you have for us.
Yeah, that's a great question, Christy. And you know, I think there's so many things about how you guys launched this company 20 years ago that was enduring over time, and one of them has been the Credo. You know, I think that's so important because that really grounds everyone in why it is you exist as a company and the values upon which, you know, the company will grow and expand and respect its stakeholders. But I think also that, you know, as you think about, you know, when the brand was launched 20 years ago, I think there were three things that really made it excel. Obviously, a terrific team, and it always starts with the people. You know, you need great talent to make any company work well, but also this incredibly reliable network that Verizon has always been well known for and always will be well known for. You know, that is at the bedrock of who we are, who Verizon is as a company. And of course, it's Can You Hear Me Now campaign, you know, which was such a success. It became part of people's vocabulary, you know, and it still is today very often when something is not, can you hear me now? I mean, it's still very much part of people's vocabulary and how, but, you know, the interesting thing about this business is it's evolved over time. It's not only about cell phone calls anymore. And reliability means a lot more now. And of course, with 4G and everything it's enabled from a data standpoint, but also 5G coming next, you know, the marketing and the purpose of the company has to evolve with that as well. And I think that Diego, Scotty, and Ronan and their teams have done just an excellent job with the brand and the consumer and the marketing transformation as a result of that shift in purpose from simply reliability to, okay, what does this network really mean for the future, and how can we be a part of that, right? And so starting with the revamping of the logo and the little red V sort of check mark, which many of you wear on your T-shirts today. And I think that's been a great part of the new visual identity of the brand, and you've expanded that new visual identity across all the retail channels, and both on in stores and online, and focus the layouts on really showcasing both mobile but also wireless home solutions for both consumers and small businesses. And you've brought in this mix and match platform, which has really helped consumers better pick what's right for them. So it's not just one price for everyone. So I think this merging of both the brand look, tone, and feel, the marketing campaign, and also this deeper understanding of the consumer and what's right for them. It's been a really terrific journey to watch the company come along on. And I think, the campaign in particular, we've seen that campaign. One of the difficulties was, how do you bring that campaign to life across both the consumer business and the business group, the customers. And I think, Diego and his team done a terrific job of really creating a unified campaign which serves both groups, and in this fast and flexible and agile format that within a week he can produce a piece of advertising so that it is in time, in a way to be relevant at a time when consumers and customers need it most. And he's proved that with the COVID-19 crisis, and obviously the hurricanes in the south and the fires in the west, and just being able to come out there and provide solutions quickly to customers at the time of need. That's what makes people trust brands, and that's what builds that authenticity, which Verizon is really kind of building and has built and continues to build over time. And then, of course, taking the brand from this single-minded focus on reliability to creating the networks that move the world forward. And I love that purpose. I think it's a purpose that is going to create so much business growth and opportunity for Verizon. I love the journey that Diego and the team are now on to bring that purpose to life across, the stakeholder groups, and obviously he's in the midst of that journey now. So it's been terrific to watch the evolution. It's a journey that never stops. It's 10 years from now, we'll see a whole sort of another big step change. But the important thing is that, you've got to continue as the market leader. You have to continually reinvent yourself. You've got to be the one creating your future. You have to be the one leading the way forward, never letting competition catch up with you. If you do, you're just not servicing consumers fast enough and thinking ahead fast enough. So, just leaping forward all the time. And always remember that the consumer and the customer have to be at the front and center of that journey. They are the ultimate boss, and they're the ones we must never stop serving.
Those are great insights for us, Mel, and I really think there's a lot in there for us to unpack and keep focused on. And I know I get inspired every day to jump out of bed and start working on how do we, bring to life the networks that are going to move the world forward. So I think it is an awesome mission and purpose statement, and one that's really helping unite and fire up the V team, especially with 5G and all of the changes that's going to enable in the world. One of the things I wanted to make sure I got the chance to talk with you about was, obviously you've been recognized and you're very humble about it, but I have to share with the audience that both Fortune and Forbes have recognized you during your career as one of the most powerful women in business. Advertising Age also recognized you as one of the most influential women in advertising. And then just recently, Latino Leaders Magazine recognized you for your accomplishments as a Latina board member. And from our first conversations, I recognized and heard from you this just amazing and interesting background, deep connections you have in Chile, Peru, Brazil, and Mexico. And I know that your heritage as a Latina is really an important part of who you are. And I would love if you could share with us today that connection and what that means to you here in Hispanic Heritage Month.
Thanks, Christy. I'd be happy to. Yeah, when you look at me, you don't think I'm a Latina, and I've lived with that my entire life. But I was born and raised in Brazil. I'm actually fourth generation Latin American. My grandmother, great-grandmother, and mother are all born and raised in Chile. My mother's father, my grandfather, is Peruvian. And my kids were both born in Mexico. So, they're actually fifth generation Latin American and are as blonde and blue-eyed as I am. So assumption number one, there are blonde and blue-eyed Latinos out there. And and the reason my English doesn't sound like, a Latina speaking English is because my father is English. He was born in England. And we actually grew up speaking English at home and grew up bilingual. So I went to Brazilian schools and also an American high school when I was in Brazil, but basically grew up bilingual. Actually, and then, of course, trilingual, too, because ended up living in Mexico for 3 years and Venezuela for 3 years as well. So yeah, I mean, I lived 37 years between all three countries, Brazil, Mexico, and Venezuela in Latin America, and speak Portuguese and Spanish and English, and I love Latin food, rice and beans and empanadas. In Brazil, we call them pastéis. Love dancing to samba and salsa. Those are my two favorite. And I guess one of the things I miss most about COVID is not being able to go out and dance salsa at some of the places here in Cincinnati. But it's been a big part of who I am, and it's a wonderful culture. We cherish our families in a big way. That's very important to us. We share the American dream just like any other American does. We're a positive, happy group, and for the most part. But it's interesting as well. I would say the other thing I would say about Latins are, we are as diverse as Americans from New York are to Americans from the Midwest to Americans from California. But just in the same way, there's a lot that unites us. And I think that in all of these situations, it's so important to focus on the things that unite us. And when we do, that's when we move the world forward.
That's awesome, Mel. I probably have time for one more question. So one recent report that just came out that was very fascinating, just in the last 10 days from the Latino Donor Collaborative, highlighted that Latinos represent about 18.3% of the U.S. population, but they are responsible for 78% of the growth in the U.S. labor force, and also some statistics around very high percent of the GDP that the Latino community contributes. So I'd love any insights you have as we think about ourselves as one of the largest employers in the United States, one of the largest companies with a huge consumer base. Any insights for us?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, this is the fastest growing group of consumers in the U.S. If U.S. Latinos were a country, it'd rank among the world's 10 largest GDPs, ahead of Brazil, my home, and the third largest growth, only behind China and India. So, I mean, this is a group to take seriously. And they're an important source of growth for all companies. And the companies that manage to get a disproportionate share of the Latino market will be securing a stronger future going forward. There is no doubt. So every organization needs to be ready and prepared to service this growth. And that means hiring, retaining, and promoting talent that can quickly assimilate and understand what it means to service this customer. It also means that that we have to understand, take the time to understand this consumer, understand them intimately, understand, what are the issues that they're facing and how can we help unlock growth with that consumer. Now, I will say that I think Verizon has been doing a terrific job on the diversity front. You know, Christy, that this is an active topic on our compensation committee. We talk about it a lot. We have just issued the Verizon diversity report. And I think that's a terrific start because we've laid out our numbers, and now we know where we stand and where we need to improve and where we need to take the company to the next level. So it's great transparency, and I commend you for doing that. I think what I'd say is there is no silver formula here on how to really accelerate racial equality, minority representation at all levels, and this culture of inclusion and belonging that we all yearn for. But there are best practices out there, many of which I think Verizon has visibly embraced. I think the first one is, yes, you need a diverse board and you need a diverse leadership team. The second one is you need leaders to lead. And I think Hans has done an outstanding job throughout these past months, in particular, leading through this racial crisis that we've been having, especially with African Americans, and promoting the kinds of conversations that make people feel like they're being heard and that he cares. And he does care. And every leader should follow that example. Third is taking the time to build a culture of inclusion and belonging. And I say belonging because that is such an important part of inclusion. A culture where everyone feels part of the team, where everyone feels included, and where everyone is performing and enabled to perform at their peak. And then fourth, managing career development and personal development and growth and retention across all stages of career development, from entry level all the way through to C-suite. And again, very often we'll focus at the beginning of that career stage, not as much in the middle, and then at the end. And I think we need to really do a good job of doing it all the way through. So those are just four sort of best practices. There are many more. We can't do everything at once. We always have to pick and focus. But the key is clearly we want to retain strong talent with Latinas, with African Americans, with Asians, with women. We want everyone represented, everyone performing at their peak.
Mel, these were just wonderful remarks, great inspirations and insights for us. And I can't thank you enough for being here with us today as one of our board members, with a lot that you've contributed to helping guide us to where we are. And I know a lot more to come. So with that, I'll throw it back to Andy and our anchor of Up to Speed. Thank you, Andy.
Christy, thank you for leading this discussion. And Mel, in this very short conversation, we garnered so much knowledge. We thank you so much for your time. And you mentioned that sense of belonging. I can tell you the connection we have to our board and your leadership and your wisdom. We truly feel like we belong. And so thank you for that, Mel. And I can tell you right now, just the hearts that popped up. I'm watching the comments and the hearts come up on Twitter. And when you talked about your Latin American experience, so much love out there. And I can tell you right now, if I'm ever in the Queen City when this is all over, we're going to do a little Cincinnati salsa dance in there. So Mel, thank you. If folks want to connect with you outside of Up to Speed, where can they find you?
LinkedIn. Find
Excellent.
me on LinkedIn. All right.
Excellent. Thank you, Mel. And Christy. Absolutely. Christy, some final thoughts before we wrap things up.
VT, we've got a lot coming up here in October, so look out for your open enrollment. Don't miss out on the great benefits we work hard to make available to you. And Stay safe.
Excellent. Thank you, ladies, both. And thank you to our viewers for watching. And until next time, you're up to speed. We'll see you soon.